So my name is Farah Obaidullah, and I'm the founder of Women for Oceans, as well as the nonprofit The Ocean and Us, and I'm the editor of the book The Ocean and Us. The reason why I departed from academia and marine science and entered into ocean advocacy is because, when I was very young, I was fascinated by all marine life. And of course, the only direction that was proposed or suggested to me was to do marine biology, marine science. But at the same time, I was witnessing a lot of destruction around me. I grew up in the Netherlands by the sea, but I also spent time in West Africa, Gabon, and I spent every weekend at the beach. And I would see firsthand the deforestation that was happening, so from the rainforest. And I remember thinking, and I was very young, but I remember thinking, when is the forest going to run out? When are we going to, when are there no longer any more trees? I was very aware of how finite the natural world is. And so even though I pursued marine science because it was the only thing in the 80s and 90s that you could do to be close to the sea and to study marine animals, I knew deep down that although I wanted to do something with the sea, I wanted to be part of protecting the sea. And so that realization started very early on. And of course, the older I became, the more aware I was of things like the climate crisis, like the acceleration of sea level rise, like overfishing. And then, of course, in the last 10, 20 years, we've seen this tsunami of plastic pollution. And so I became more aware of the issues facing our ocean, and it became more important to me than, rather than just contributing to science, it became important to take that science and use it for advocating for the protection of our ocean. So I have spent the last 20 years working for the protection of the ocean, and one of the things that I realized in whether I was working at the community level or at the international level, walking the corridors of the UN or in fishing villages around the world, was the lack of representation of women in decision making, in policy making. And there are plenty of women in ocean science, in ocean conservation, in fisheries, but they are often invisible. And so as a biologist, I thought to myself, well, what is it that we are doing so wrong, that is so at odds with the natural world, that we're basically destroying our natural world? And what is it that we do different to other species in the world? And obviously there's many theories out there, but one of them to me was also this lack of balance between what makes us human, the genders, the sexes. Women make up half the population on Earth, but we are the only species that has oppressed one half of our population for so many generations. And if any animal were to do that in the animal kingdom, they would die. And if you look at human civilization, we're not doing very well. And I thought, well, what if we elevated the feminine perspective and made sure that the feminine perspective is as much part of decision making and shaping civilization as conventionally the sort of patriarchy has been. And so in 2016, I founded Women for Oceans as a way to do this, as a way to connect and support women's voices around the world, and as a way to accelerate ocean solutions. So I think we can leverage the feminine perspective in ocean science and ocean conservation just by simply embracing what it means to have a feminine perspective, because it isn't limited to women. Everybody has a feminine perspective, and we need to start recognizing that and embracing that and ensuring that we're not afraid to express that perspective when it comes to decision making and policy making. And a very specific example is if we look at the high seas, which make up half the planet. It's 64% of the ocean, so it is essentially half the planet that is right now largely ungoverned. because when they developed the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, they thought about the sovereign waters, the waters. What does the ocean mean to countries? What does it mean to the self? What can we take from it? How can we exploit it? There was very little consideration about the collective value of the ocean, the future value, the undiscovered value, the innate value. And these are all values that, to my mind, are feminine values. And if we had incorporated those into the law of the sea early on, we wouldn't be now in a situation where half the planet is ungoverned and there's this race to exploit it, whether it's for minerals or for fisheries. If we had thought about protecting it for the long term, for the collective value, because it's our global commons, it belongs to everyone, then I think we would be in a much better position. So that's just one example of how we can leverage the feminine perspective for ocean conservation. So one of the reasons why I departed from marine science early on is not because I wasn't interested in studying marine science or understanding the natural world and contributing to our collective knowledge of marine life and how we interact with the oceans. But the urgency that I felt with the knowledge that I already had at the time doing my degrees, my scientific degrees, was that I wanted to communicate that knowledge and the urgency to policymakers, to the wider public. And I think that is one of the best ways, if I could help shape the way academia interacts with policymaking, I feel that scientists could do a much better job or should be encouraged to speak out on the issues that they know about. I know that as a scientist, it's often difficult, always difficult. If you're a good scientist, it's always difficult to say with any certainty, absolute certainty, that a causal relationship between a problem and a solution, or cause and symptom. But even though we cannot say something with absolute certainty, like, oh, this storm that we experience is a result of the climate crisis, we might not be able to say that with certainty, but we can say with our scientific expertise that it is likely that these two things are linked and related. And the same is true with other issues that our oceans face. For example, with the issue of deep sea mining, which I'm very passionately campaigning against, we know with the science that we have, we know that deep sea mining will irreversibly destroy ancient habitat. And yet at the same time, industry as well as policymakers are putting the burden of proof on scientists. But the thing is, we haven't yet mined the deep sea, so we don't have empirical data to show that it is going to destroy ancient habitat. But we know as scientists, we know with the knowledge that we have, that this is a very likely scenario. And so why do we have to wait for the evidence to manifest, for it to be too late, before we can say with absolute certainty, okay, this is the result? We should be using our knowledge and warning and speaking out before the damage is done. And that's where I think scientists, we can leverage scientists and science knowledge, for ocean protection and policy making. So really, my plea to scientists is speak out. People trust you. You are our bodies of knowledge, and don't be afraid to say with expertise that, given your knowledge, this is a likely scenario that will play out if we allow, for example, deep sea mining to go ahead.